It started as a ripple, a mere disturbance in the warm waters of the Caribbean. But nature had other plans. On July 1, 2024, meteorologists noticed something brewing. A tropical depression, they called it. Harmless, they thought. They were wrong. Within 24 hours it grew. It fed on the warm ocean, it spun faster, it grew stronger. By July 3rd it had a name, Hurricane Beryl. The monster was born, and it was hungry. The world watched. Weather channels buzzed with activity. Experts debated its path. But Beryl had a mind of its own. It churned the waters, it swallowed the sky, it set its sights on land. As night fell on July 4th, Beryl roared. It was now a Category 3 hurricane. Winds howled at 125 miles per hour. The sea rose to meet it, and still it grew. The monster was coming, and nothing could stop it. Beryl moved with purpose. It carved a path through the Gulf of Mexico. Each hour brought it closer to land. Each minute made it stronger. By July 5th it was a Category 4. The Gulf trembled in its wake. Ships fled its path. Oil rigs were abandoned. Coastal cities held their breath. Beryl was relentless. It fed on the warm Gulf waters. It grew to a monstrous size. Its eye alone spanned 30 miles.
Meteorologists worked around the clock. They tracked its every move. They issued warning after warning. But Beryl defied predictions. It zigged when they said zag. It strengthened when they said weaken. By July 6th, the truth was clear. Beryl was headed for the coast. Mexico would feel its fury first. Then, Texas would be in its sights. The monster had chosen its prey, and it was hungry for destruction.
On July 7th, Beryl made landfall. It slammed into Mexico's Gulf Coast. The town of Tampico took the brunt. Winds of 155 miles per hour tore through streets. Waves as high as buildings crashed ashore. The rain came in biblical proportions. Houses crumbled like sandcastles. Trees snapped like twigs. Cars floated down flooded streets. The power grid failed within hours. Darkness fell, broken only by lightning. And still, Beryl raged on.
Rescue efforts began immediately, but Beryl made them nearly impossible. Helicopters couldn't fly in the wind. Boats struggled against the waves. People were trapped, on rooftops, in attics, praying for salvation.
For 12 long hours, Beryl punished Tampico. Then it moved inland. It left behind a city in ruins, homes destroyed, lives shattered. The monster had fed, but it wasn't satisfied. It turned its eye north, towards Texas. As Beryl churned across Mexico, Texas braced for impact. Galveston remembered Ike, Houston remembered Harvey, but Beryl was different. Beryl was worse. The monster was coming, and it was still hungry. Evacuations began on July 8th. Highways clogged with fleeing residents, gas stations ran dry, grocery stores were stripped bare, those who stayed boarded up windows, they filled bathtubs with water, they waited, and they prayed.
Governor Martinez declared a state of emergency. The National Guard mobilized. FEMA pre-positioned supplies. But would it be enough? Beryl had already proven its might. It had already tasted destruction. And now, it wanted more. As night fell on July 9th, the outer bands reached Texas. The wind picked up. The rain began. In Corpus Christi, waves crashed over seawalls. In Houston, bayous began to swell. The monster was at the door, and Texas held its breath.
Beryl hit Texas like a freight train. It made landfall near Corpus Christi at 2 a.m. on July 10th. The city's famous seawall crumbled. Storm surge pushed miles inland. Houses vanished. Streets became rivers. The night was filled with the sounds of destruction. As dawn broke, the true scale became clear.
Corpus Christi was unrecognizable. Port Aransas was gone. Rockport was a wasteland. And Beryl kept pushing inland, towards Victoria, towards Houston. The monster was unstoppable.
Houston, still scarred from Harvey, faced a new nightmare. Beryl's rains overwhelmed bayous. Highways became canals. The city drowned under feet of water. Downtown skyscrapers stood like islands in a brown sea. And still, the rain fell. For 3 days, Beryl punished Texas. It spawned tornadoes. It caused historic flooding. It left millions without power. When it finally moved on, it left behind a state in shock. The monster had fed, and Texas would never be the same. In the wake of Beryl, stories emerged, tales of heroism, of tragedy, of lives forever changed.
In Tampico, Maria Gonzalez spent 18 hours in her attic with her 3 children and her elderly mother. They were rescued by boat. They lost everything, but they survived.
In Corpus Christi, firefighter John Martinez worked for 72 hours straight. He saved dozens, but he couldn't save his own home. It was washed away. With all his possessions, all his memories. "I have my life," he said. "That's what matters." Houston's Barbara Lee wasn't so lucky. She refused to evacuate. "I survived Harvey," she said. She didn't survive Beryl. Her body was found 3 days later, floating in her living room, one of hundreds who perished.
In Victoria, the Thompson family rode out the storm in their bathroom. For hours, they listened to their home tear apart. When it was over, only the bathroom remained. "It's a miracle," Mr. Thompson said, but his eyes were haunted. The monster had spared them, but at what cost?
As the waters receded, the true cost became clear. In Mexico, over 500 dead, thousands more missing, Tampico in ruins, billions in damage. The country's economy shattered. It would take years to recover, if ever.
In Texas, the numbers were staggering. Over 300 dead, millions displaced, Houston paralyzed, Corpus Christi decimated. Early estimates put the damage at $200 billion, the most expensive natural disaster in U.S. history. The monster had exacted a heavy toll.
Infrastructure was in shambles. Power outages affected millions. Clean water was scarce. Hospitals were overwhelmed. Roads were impassable. The port of Houston, vital to the nation's economy, was crippled. The ripple effects would be felt for years. Environmental concerns mounted. Chemical plants had released toxins. Sewage systems had failed. Oil spills dotted the coast. The fragile ecosystem of the Gulf Coast faced a new threat. Bryl's destruction went beyond the physical. It poisoned the very land it had ravaged.
Section 8, Lessons Learned the Hard Way. In Bryl's wake, hard questions arose. Could more have been done? Were the warnings sufficient? Did complacency cost lives?
Experts pored over data. Officials faced inquiries. The public demanded answers. The monster had exposed our vulnerabilities. Building codes came under scrutiny. Many structures had failed, even those built after previous hurricanes.
Was it time for stricter standards? For managed retreat from the coast? The cost would be enormous. But could we afford not to?
Evacuation procedures were re-evaluated. Many had been stranded. Highways had become parking lots. Should evacuations start earlier? Be mandatory? How to help those without means to leave? The next storm wouldn't wait for perfect solutions.
Climate change entered the conversation. Had it made Bryl stronger, more destructive? Scientists pointed to warmer waters, to rising sea levels, to changing weather patterns. The monster, they said, was a glimpse of the future, a future we had to prepare for, or face extinction.
Section 9. The importance of preparedness. Bryl taught us a harsh lesson. Preparedness saves lives. It's not just about government action, it's about personal responsibility. Every family needs a plan. Every individual must be ready. The monster doesn't discriminate. It comes for us all. What does preparedness look like? It's having an emergency kit with food, water, and medicine. It's knowing your evacuation route and having a place to go. It's staying informed, following official guidance, not waiting until the last minute. For coastal communities, it means rethinking infrastructure, building stronger, building smarter. It means natural buffers, restored wetlands, improved drainage. It means investing in resilience, because the cost of inaction is too high. For inland areas, it means being ready for flooding, for power outages, for displaced populations. It means community planning, shelter preparation, resource allocation. The monster's reach is long. We must be ready everywhere. Section 10, a call to action. Bryl is gone, but more will come. They may have different names, different strengths, but they will come, and we must be ready. We owe it to those we lost, to those who survived, to future generations. What can you do? Start with your own preparedness, make a plan, build a kit, stay informed, then look to your community. Volunteer, donate, advocate for better policies, for stronger infrastructure, for climate action. Support the organizations on the front lines, the Red Cross, Team Rubicon, local food banks. They need resources, they need manpower. They are our first line of defense against the monster's aftermath. Educate yourself, understand the risks, learn from the past, push for change, demand action from your leaders. The monster thrives on complacency, on denial, on inaction. We must fight it with knowledge, with preparation, with unity. Section 11. Stay informed, stay safe. The story of Bryl is not over. Its effects will linger for years, in destroyed homes, in traumatized survivors, in changed landscapes. We must remember. We must learn. We must act. Subscribe to our newsletter for ongoing coverage, for updates on recovery efforts, for expert analysis on future storms. Knowledge is power. Information is safety. Stay connected, stay prepared, follow official channels, the National Hurricane Center, your local emergency management office. They provide life-saving information. When the next monster comes, you'll be ready. You'll be informed. You'll be safe. Remember Beryl, honor its victims, support its survivors, and prepare. Because nature is unforgiving, the monsters will return, but next time, we'll be ready. We'll be stronger. We'll face the storm together. Subscribe now.